shut down?
Right now, we're 50% down from last year.
Really? I'm doing the best that I can with the best that I have.
That particular pivot, I discovered that I had to be creative.
And really just evaluate, who you are.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Pivotal Moments with Liletta. I am very excited about today's guest. We're talking healthcare, we're talking pivots. It's going to be a good conversation. So without further delay, let me go ahead and welcome Piper to the conversation. Welcome, Piper.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I always let everyone introduce themselves because I don't want to mess it up. So why don't you go ahead and tell me a bit about your background?
Well, my name is Piper Grigsby, and I'm also known as your Dedicated Care Concierge. And so my background is 26 plus years in the healthcare industry, doing care coordinating, to physician management, to assisted living, helping with assisted living, and actually doing hands-on rehab, like physical therapy, occupational therapy in hospitals and nursing homes. So that's all me.
Nice. Well, it is so nice to have you in the conversation. So we are talking about pivoting, and obviously this year, I think, the word pivot is just used everywhere. Everyone has had to make some type of pivot, from large businesses to personally. So I wanted to create this platform so that we could come together and people can just share ways that they've pivoted. And the goal is so that whatever we're facing or going to face in the future with all the different challenges, that we can recognize that we have the tools that we need because we've done it before. So with that said, if you would be so kind as to share a moment that you have had to make a pivot with today's viewers.
Well, I mean, basically, as I've shared my background, I've been consistently for 26 years working for corporate management, in being of service still to the community, but through those different companies and different corporate management. So when I finally had my aha pivotal moment was the fact that I wanted to go off my own individually to be able to provide and be of service to our communities in ways where I felt that I can uphold values, dignity, and integrity the way that I could, as well as that I wouldn't be providing just one set of, services, but that now I would be able to be fully able to serve my community in various of ways, various of resources. I wasn't limited to just doing one thing anymore.
Wow, that definitely sounds like a big pivot to have to make from just, they say the safety or security kind of like that stable, secure corporate job, so to speak, to really venturing out on your own and doing something that was going to speak to a lot of different people. So wow, I can understand that. Now, when we talk about pivoting, and we also talk about pivotal moments, which is the name of this series, we recognize that a pivotal moment is obviously that moment that produces the change, right? That produces the shift. And so what we've learned is that it's always circled around the pivot, the thing that is central of importance to a person. So, and a lot of times we don't necessarily know before we're making the pivot, but we discover it either during or after that this thing is of central importance to me. So with that said, in making that pivot that you had to make, what did you learn or discover was of central importance, unchangeable, that everything else would shift around that?
Well, usually when people think of coming out of a corporate job, that structure, right? So the first thing you think of when you're like, okay, let me create a business, let me create something where I can be of service, usually the first thing we think about is, okay, what kind of structure can I create? What can I, like, let me put the Lego blocks and everything just so, because when it's just so, then everything else can fall into line.
Yeah.
Well, everything that I've created has been in the works for the last 3 years. It's been through changes, it's been through rebranding. And what I finally figured out was it's heart. It's heart. It's heart of what drives you to be of service to people. How do you want to serve people? And once I did that, it seems like everything fell into place. The right people, the right places, to where now we're expanding into California and Georgia. So, it took like all these years and just trying to say things a certain way to reach out to people and help them. And it came about where I just love to help people. I knew what I was doing. I was a care coordinator for many years. So how do I just use my knowledge, use my experience, and use my know-how to serve people? And once I kind of like figured that out, everything literally opened up and fell into place.
Wow. And there's people say, know your why, learn your why. I like to look at it as the central thing that moves you, that we can identify, or a purpose point. But what you're saying is exactly that. Once you really figured out what was at the core, which was, like you said, your heart, the caring, really wanting to serve people, that's what you discovered was of importance, and then everything else fell into place.
It did. I mean,
Wow.
it's like serving. I think we all, that word or that sentence comes up, or phrase comes up a lot. You want to, like you said, know your why, you want to be of service to people.
Yes.
But what I realized, I put the 2 and 2 together, was that, okay, this is what I know how to do. This is what I'm experienced at. This is what I'm great at. And so this is the pain point people have. These are the issues that they're having. These are the challenges they're having. Okay, let's meet together. And that's basically how then the structure and everything just started to fall into place. I mean, you still need to have structure.
Yeah.
But sometimes in our journey of pivoting and our journey of figuring things out, we always feel like we have to have the structure for things to work.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the base is like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to save people from? What are you trying to help them, or assist them, or improve in their life, or transform in their life to make it better? Yeah. And then so once you're like, okay, I've been doing this for years for another company. I've been doing, I've dealt with thousands of families. And then you figure it out and you're like, oh, okay, really, it's nothing different. I'm just making it my own. I'm just creating something of my own team, my own system. And then it works. I think sometimes we get too caught up in the how and the exactly like where things are supposed to be. But honestly, successful entrepreneurs and other people who have pivoted said, really, you're going to change. It's going to change. Like you're going, your brand, everything is going to evolve. Everything is going to change anyway. And once I finally accepted that, then my pivotal moments and everything that I've been striving so hard for finally came together. Wow. You just have to realize there's going to be areas where things are not going to work out. The people that you thought that should be a part of it aren't a part of it. Like you just have to learn to allow things to happen sometimes. You still make those efforts, and you still, work very hard at things, and you still let your yes mean yes. But sometimes you have to allow things to happen, and I'll give you an example. Sometimes I identify people that I'm like, oh, they'd be great, for our team and, for our service, brand, but they're not getting it and it doesn't fit. And I had to learn like that was nothing about me. It was just the fact that we weren't in the same moment at the same time. Mm-hmm. And the people that need to be and will be in that moment with you that will help you make it great, it's going to happen. Like, you don't have to force it. You don't have to chase anybody.
Yeah.
It just happens. So that's what I mean about just sometimes allowing things to happen and not stressing yourself out as to making things fit, like, you know, making a square fit into a circle, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Wow. You know, and as we talk about that, you know, shifting gears a bit. So we talked about that pivot, but what's interesting is an adjustment. And what I really have learned just about the word itself is that adjustment takes on a slightly different meaning than a pivot, which I found to be very interesting. Adjustment is really about adapting to a situation or a circumstance. So for you, can you talk about a time where you had to make the adjustment instead of a pivot?
Yeah, but like I said, you know, anybody who makes a pivotal change in their life, there's going to be constant adjustments. There's every day, every week, and you just have to be okay with that. And so what I mean by that is, like, for instance, you know, usually when you work for other people or corporate, like, you know, you have certain set times and you have, you know, like I said, more structure. Sometimes when you are serving other people or you're dealing with a situation, there's no time frame on it. If you're talking with, for instance, helping a senior and their family, and you schedule a meeting for, let's say, 3:00, it can go to 5:30, or it can go from one meeting to 20 meetings. It just depends. So especially if you're serving other people, you have to adjust in your mind that you have to be flexible. You can still, you know, like, my assistant was really awesome. She helped me get very organized and, you know, still set up like structural systems every day so that I can be productive and get things done. However, it still allowed flexibility.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that things are not always going to go the way that you think they're going to go. You know, meetings are not always going to turn out the way that, you know, you think they're going to turn out. You hope for the best, but you have to make that adjustment in your mind that you have to be flexible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's okay. It doesn't have a reflection on you. It doesn't mean that, you know, you're not succeeding or whatever the case is, but you just have to learn to, you know, make more of adjustment to be flexible, as well as with personalities. There's a lot of personalities. So when you're in the service industry, you have to learn to adjust to different people's personalities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And learn to, you know, not take offense, learn to deal with people according to knowledge, and still providing people with that dignity and respect as you would want for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, you know, it's adjustment from just you fitting in out from a corporate, you know, into a team or corporate team to this is yours, and you're dealing with a more massive amount of people. You have to learn to adjust and, you know, go with the flow, and also learn how to deal with people's personalities.
Wow. And I love that. It's a very realistic viewpoint, you know, and I think especially for those who are maybe in corporate America right now and they're looking to make that pivot. I love what you're saying, because these are things, it's not deal breakers, but these are definitely things that you want to kind of have your mind prepared for, because this is what's going to come with making that pivot from corporate work to your own entrepreneurial boss and everything.
I mean, you know, usually when we think about corporate life, even though now, you know, we have all these new movements and be you and do your thing, but let's be real about it. You're in corporate, so you still have to kind of fit in their, you know, what is it? Their shape or their
framework.
Their framework.
Yeah.
So when you pivot and you move to do your own thing, you're now dealing with a lot of people. And I think, especially if you're coming from structure, if you're coming from a corporate way, sometimes you think you want things done your way. It's either your way or the highway. It cannot be that.
Yeah.
You know, adjusting means understanding that you have to be flexible, you have to be open-minded, and you have to respect everybody's ideas and how their approaches, you know, as long as you still have the same values and you're still trying to accomplish the same goal, you just have to be flexible, and you have to be okay. It's a thing that you do have to learn, but it's a beautiful thing when you do learn it, because things just literally, they flow like water and ice.
Awesome. Piper, as we come to kind of the end of this conversation, they always go by so fast. What would you like to specifically leave with the viewers, a message directly from you, that is the takeaway, if you will?
I will say, don't give up. If you really believe in what you want to do, if you really believe in your efforts, your experience, and everything that you have to offer to be able to serve people in some way or one another, don't give up. It's going to take time. It's going to be hard. They always say the, best things to have sometimes are the hardest to acquire. I mean, something worth having, it takes effort, it takes time, and sometimes it's hard. So don't give up. Don't give up. There's so many times that you want to just throw in the towel. You don't see how it's going to happen, but just surround yourself with the right, positive, real people who know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And, you can nurture one another. To me, it should not be just a take. It should be a give and take. But don't give up. Don't give up, especially if you really feel you can help people. And that's what I found in my LLC with our senior services, our real estate concierge services, and now our women's health and wellness concierge service. Literally, people are like, where have you been?
Wow.
How, we're just so happy you're here. And I'm able to make those relationships, because I really feel like I can't change the world, but I can help change one person's situation at a time. And that's what I feel that we're doing in all three of our service-based companies.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, your links will be provided, and I just am super excited for you with what you're accomplishing, and
Thank you.
needed. It is definitely needed in our community. So I appreciate that. Thank you for joining our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, continued success to you. And I look forward to seeing more of what's to come.
Sounds good. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Awesome. And you all have been watching another episode of Pivotal Moments with Liletta. So happy to have you joining us. And as always, stay tuned for another amazing episode of Pivotal Moments with Liletta.